G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 3 stock market video. It was a big week for all Supercoaches last week, the first round of price changes. Some players went above and beyond expectations and unfortunately some players really disappointed us. But we'll talk about all the Supercoach relevant options today. I will keep the intro pretty short, but look, if you had taken some of my advice last week, like bringing in Jordan Ridley possibly for Lockie Neal, you'd be stoked if you made that decision. I had the best buy in the mid-price forwards on Tex Walker. If you went through with that, you'd be really stoked also. But there was some disappointing recommendations from last week. Andy Brayshaw being one that really stands out. I had the buy now on him last week, but unfortunately, he got a little bit tagged out of the game and had a really poor showing in round 3. But I'm expecting him to bounce back. And remember, things can turn around very quickly for these players. So we'll get straight into it, guys. Thanks always again for the support. The subs have gone right up in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's due a lot to the stock market videos. So thanks very much for that, guys. It really does mean a lot to me, and we'll just keep growing from here and getting bigger and better. But as always, we'll start off with our premium defenders. Now, the man up the top, Dan Houston, he was a real burn man for me last year, so I wasn't looking to select him this year, but he's got an average of 111, a projected score of 107 with a break-even of only 48, so he's looking to go up about 25k this week if he can hit that score, and I think that he can. I really think that he can maintain a pretty healthy average, and as I said, I've probably got to give him a little bit more respect because he's got a really good foot on him. He's getting a fair bit of the ball down back. Porter a good side as well, and yeah, I've just got to leave my personal bias out of it, so I think he's a pretty safe option to select Dan Houston. Jordan Ridley, this man is an absolute must-have. I hope you took my advice on him last week. You've got to get him in as soon as possible because he's really going to start to hurt you soon, I think. Now, an average of 136, a break-even of only 61. Again, he's looking to go up about 25k, but out of all the defenders that we can select this year, this is the bloke that you do need to have in your side. Spills was at the game during the weekend and he was sitting just behind the Essendon goals and got to watch him up close, and he just loved everything about this guy, as we all do, because every one of the kick-outs he will take and he'll use the ball well. So Jordan Ridley, yeah, certainly a must-have in my opinion. Get him in sooner rather than later, I think. Shannon Hearn, again, I had a trap on him to start the year this year, but I've got to give him a little bit more respect. I think the rules are helping him. He's got an average of 114. Look, he wasn't SuperCoach relevant last year. I don't think he was the year before either, but he's looking to go up another 14k if he can get 105. And with a current average of 114, I'm not sure if he can keep that up, but if he does, then that puts him right up with the top defenders this year. I just can't see it happening. He's getting older. I'm not sure about his fitness levels. May need to have a rest at some stage. I'm just not a fan of selecting Hearn at his age, but you may want a real wacky pod, and if you want to go there, yeah, up to you. Jeremy Howe, again, wasn't a really big fan of this pick to start the season. I was a little bit worried about his durability, but he's going okay at the moment with a 100 average right on the dot. I wouldn't go there myself, but if you want to, you can, I suppose. Jayden Short, you will not see this bloke kick the ball as bad as he did over the weekend. His efficiency was right down, which is really unusual for Jayden Short, but I'm not worried about this pick. I still think that he's safe as houses. And look, if he kicks the ball as badly as he does and still scores an 88, then that's really good signs in my opinion anyway. So still think he's a really good pick, Jayden Short. Really safe pick there. Jack Crisp, I think he'll hover around that average in price for a lot of the year, to be quite honest. He does that, Jack Crisp. He's always around that top 10 for averages at the end of the year. Extremely durable type player. Got a bit of a new role there playing as an inside midfielder, but an awkward buy. A pod, but someone that I'm not looking too closely at, sorry myself. Rory Laird, he's been a little bit underwhelming to start the season, but again, a real safe as houses pick. He'll start to boost that average up, I think, sooner rather than later. Luke Ryan, again, I didn't look to start him. I thought he was a little bit overpriced, but I thought he had a pretty solid game over the weekend. But he finds himself with a break-even of 124 and looking to lose cash in the short term. But later on, possibly after his bye, I think he may be a good selection if he starts to hit a bit more form. Keller Mills, well, he had a massive game to start off the season, and that average has slowly gone down. But 119, you certainly can't complain with that. But his break-even is a 127. and his projected score is 115. So looking to lose a little bit of cash, but been a pretty solid selection, I think, to start the season, Keller Mills. Tommy Stewart, again, pretty underwhelming. I did have the safe as houses pick on him last week, but I think he's probably a watch now. You certainly don't look to invest in this bloke, but do not trade him out. Keep the faith with Tommy Stewart. Still a really good player and a good selection, I think. The Seagull, now, he's lost a little bit of cash in the short term, but still an average of 113, break even of 133. So unless he gets close to that 130, he'll lose a little bit of cash this week, but I'm not overly concerned with Lloyd. The main concern that I do have is that he is losing some of those free chips that he's been getting in the past with the kickouts, because Jordan Dawson has been taking a large majority of those. But I suppose that may be a positive sign, given the fact that Lloyd can still average around that 113, even though he's not taking a large majority of those kickouts. He still finds a way to find those free chips, and in saying that, he still does take some of the kickouts as well. It's not like he doesn't take any of them. He still manages to get a few here and there, which is nice for us. Caleb Daniel, he's been a pretty underwhelming pick, hasn't he? He was someone that I was really keen on pre-season, just couldn't fit him in my starting squad. If I had the extra cash, then I certainly would have started Daniel myself. But yeah, pretty underwhelming with an average of 90. I think that owners would have been expecting 100 at the absolute minimum, pushing 105, even up to 110. But look, he's still got time to bounce back. But in the short term, similar to Stewart, he'll be losing some cash most likely. But don't look to trade him out. Give him a few more weeks, and you've got to be really careful with trading out these sort of premiums. And you picked Daniel for a reason. Look, you can certainly change predictions in regards to what you think he'll average, but I'm sure we've all got bigger fish to fry than a Caleb Daniel at the moment. But Brayden Maynard, if you're one of the few owners that has this bloke, I think you do got to fry him, because a break even of 173, I'd just be jumping ship now. And that's when you maybe, you're certainly taking a loss starting a premium going down, but maybe a CJ or one of those guys, if you're desperate to get rid of someone like a Maynard and then make some cash and then use that wisely elsewhere. But look, he's certainly on the chopping block, Maynard, but not many of us have him anyway, I don't think. On to the defenders, 200 to 500k. This man up the top, geez, isn't he exciting to watch? CJ, 332,700, an average of 102 with a negative break even of 42. If he can go on 81, he'll rise over 50k. And I've got a new symbol there, the last chance. This is your last chance if you are interested in jumping on CJ. Now, what's my personal opinion? You'd have to be in a pretty unique situation to want to bring someone in at this price, I think. You know, who are you trading out for him? I don't think we've got any injured premiums, and apart from someone like a Maynard, who no one really has, I don't think there's anyone that we necessarily need to trade out or must trade out. So it's an interesting price point here, particularly in our defensive lines. But if you are interested in the pod, and if you think that he can maintain that average of 102, then he could be a D6 for the rest of the season. So it is your last chance if you predict that he can do that. What's my personal opinion? I don't think that he can do that. I just think there's too many other options that'll be more likely to finish in the top 6 to 8, even up to 10 defenders at the end of the season. So a risky pick, but yeah, I'd love to have him in my side. And if you picked him over a Hayden Young or a Jordan Clark, then you've done really well for yourself. Congratulations, a nice pod there. But yeah, if you want to have a crack at him now, it is your last chance for sure. Isaac Cumming, really good average there of 93, so negative break even of 1. He's looking to also rise close to 40k there, but I think the ship may have sailed on him. Again, similar to Jath at that awkward price point, why are you bringing him in? If you're choosing between Cumming and Jath, I'd be going with CJ myself. Just personal preference there, but I think he's just more of an exciting player. Jordan Clark, interestingly, I was watching George's review video, round review, so make sure you check that out if you haven't. Great content as always, the great George, but he's thinking about even trading out Clark this week in order to get one of those must-have premiums. So a really interesting move, and could pay dividends, but he still does have a little bit of money to make. So break-even's only 24. If he can hit a 65, which I think is achievable, he could go a bit lower, could go a little bit higher. He'll make around 20k. So he's got some DPP. That's a symbol there. We can always use that and swing him in a couple of weeks if you want to trade him, but I'd be holding this bloke for now. I wouldn't be trading Clark at this stage. Give him a little longer just to fatten up a little bit. Dougal Howard, I've got the seagull symbol on there. He's been taking a lot of the kick-outs. I said that last week in the stock market video, but he's made a fair bit of cash there in the short term, an average of 100, break even of only 30. And if he can hit that average, that season average, during the first 3 games, or over the first 3 games, then he'll rise over 30k. So Howard as a pod, I'm not huge on him, but I tell you what, if the opposition team don't kick straight, then he'll have a few points in his pocket, I think. Now, Mark O'Connor, geez, this guy's annoyed me the last couple of weeks. He tagged Lockie Neal when he was in my side in round 2, and then did a pretty good job on Titch over the weekend as well, who's also in my side. So, yeah, bloody Mark O'Connor. But look, we've got to give him some respect. His price there is 406,000, average of 94. If he can hit that projected score of 96, then he'll go up 27k, and he's an ultra pod. Now, an interesting fact about O'Connor is that previous to the 2021 season, he had never attended a centre bounce, and all of a sudden he finds him there as a regular. So a bit of a surprise move in round 2. I don't think Brisbane was certainly expecting this. There was no way to expect it. I don't think a hard Mark O'Connor tag, but he's done his job really well. And what's really pleasing, particularly for Geelong, is that he's also managed to find the ball himself as well, and be a pretty damaging type player through the midfield, to be quite honest. So given the fact he can play that negating role and actually find the ball himself, he's doing a terrific job for his team at the moment. And look, he's an ultra pod. Would I bring him in? Certainly not. But again, if you're looking to do a really wacky move, then maybe you could go with someone like Mark O'Connor. Alia, Markov, Quaynor. Yeah, I just don't think they're really overly going to be SuperCoach relevant. You certainly don't look to invest in any of these guys. Same as a Fantasia, but if you've got them, yeah, there's their break-evens. They're all looking to make a little bit of money in the short term. Daniel Rich, I actually think this bloke could be a really, really nice pod. So I've been a big fan of Rich for years. As a SuperCoach pick, not necessarily, because durability is always a slight concern, but I think the rules have helped him. Got a really nice left boot. We know, all the advantages of having someone like a Daniel Rich, and he is pretty consistent with his scoring as well. So again, if you're looking for an ultra pod, you could go a lot worse, I think, than Daniel Rich. Jordan Dawson is at his best year so far to date. It has only been 3 rounds, I know, but a big reason for that is that he's, as I mentioned before, taking a large majority of the kick-ins. He kicks it over 50 metres basically every time. He can hit the wing very, very easily, like he's just chipping it on his left slipper there. So, yeah, would I bring him in? Again, no, because he's got an awkward bye. But, yeah, a super pod at this stage, and he's got a pretty good role down there in the Sydney backline at the moment. And Salem, again, I wouldn't look to go near him, but he does have an average of 96, and that is, better than someone like a Caleb Daniel, and up there with the Tommy Stewart. So you've got to include these blokes that are at, a much lower price than them, but yeah, personally, I wouldn't look to be going with Salem myself. The next man, Darcy Moore. This guy could be a really good pod, but it's just a little bit too dangerous, in my opinion. I got a little bit excited watching him play in round 2, but yeah, he's got an awkward bye. Durability is always going to be a little bit of a concern, but he could, really shape your season if you go for him. But again, he may sort of average around that 90 mark, and it's probably not going to be enough for us this year. Jack Bowes, this man, 118 for an average, so that's right up there with the top defenders for this year. He's already made a fair bit of money there in the short term, looking to go up 15k if you can hit that projected score of 113. So look, I don't know too much about him as a player, other than he's taken a fair bit of the kick-outs and is finding the ball down there in the back line. So I've got the seagull symbol on him. If you're looking for a pod, I suppose you could go with Jack Bowes. Hayden Young is injured, done his hammy, I believe, so I think that you just got to sell him. Lukosius, just keep on the watch list. I'm not loving him at the moment. Doherty, I thought he was a bit of a trap. He may not be a trap, but I don't think that he'll be one of the top averaging defenders this year. I just wouldn't be looking to go near him at the moment. But if you have selected Doherty at the start of the year, I don't think it was the disaster that I thought it was last week anyway. Duggan, he's a trap. I don't like that selection at all. Zach Williams, he's not looking great, is he, at the moment? Looking to lose some cash if he goes in 87. Durability is always a big concern, so I wouldn't be looking to go near the Zach Williams pick this year. I was pretty keen on him pre-season, but at the moment, would not go near him at all. Bailey Williams, a pod. Again, don't know much about him, but I wouldn't be going there. Hunter Clark, I think, has been a little bit of a trap for those that started him this year. Look, what do you do with him? 433,000 is just a really awkward price point. You've probably just got to keep him and hope that he comes good, I think, at this stage. Or else you've got some of those options that are on the first page. But again, you're wasting a precious trade. Is it worth a trade? Average of 82. Maybe, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'd probably hold him myself. Stephen May, he's looking pretty good after round one, but yeah, a little bit underwhelming over the last 2 weeks. Here's a pod selection, but you wouldn't be looking to trade him in at this stage. And Adam Sard, if you've got him, what do you do? So there's certainly reasons to be putting him on the chopping block if you can use a luxury trade. Look, if you've already used 2 to 3 trades, there's no way that I'll be looking to do this because you've probably got some other problems and you want to conserve some more trades. But yeah, if you've got a luxury trade up your sleeve, you could go down to one of the options on the previous page, or if you've got some spare cash in the kitty, you might want to go all the way up to a Ridley. But yeah, it really depends on your personal situation, I think. And the defenders under 250k, who saw this coming? Tommy Highmore omitted. So I had him as an absolute must-buy in the stock market video last week, but now that's got to be replaced with the job security symbol. Now, personally, I think it may have come down more to team balance. He's only probably an injury or two away from coming back into the side anyway, but yeah, he's got a negative break-even of 68, looking to make 60k when he comes back into the side, but it actually worked out well for me last week, given the fact I had this man who's 4th on the list, Jordan Butts, as my emergency with that 95 score on the weekend. So yeah, disappointing for those that had to field someone like a Cozzy. Hopefully Highmore comes back sooner rather than later for us. Heathy Chapman, now, he was a pretty highly rated youngster, an intercepting sort of defender. He hasn't necessarily got that intercepting role down there at the moment, I don't think, but Frio's backline, yeah, it's been riddled with injuries at the moment. Now, Spills talks a little bit about Heath Chapman in his rookie review this week, so make sure that you check that out. He also talks about some of the players that I don't have on this list that have only played one game, like Archie Perkins, Waterman, as well from Essendon. So make sure you check that out. Spiller SuperCoach rookie review. Yeah, he talks about a couple of players that I don't mention here, because remember, I only do focus on those players that are at least on the bubble and have played those 2 games. So Heathy Chapman, yeah, getting back to him, he's looking to go 46,000 in price this week. If he sits at average of 64, can he do it? Well, I'm not too sure, but out of all the list here, I think that he is the best buy. Cox, I've got the yin-yang symbol on him there because he looked terrible in the first couple of weeks, but looked really, really good over the weekend as well, and was a really impressive player in my opinion. There was a couple of darts, that left foot, really bizarre from a player with his height, but yeah, maybe he wasn't the failure that we're all assuming he was going to be after week 2. So got to give a little bit of credit to Nick Cox, and he's actually looking to go up 31k this week. So I was wrong on him last week, but all I could really do was go off the data, and I just didn't see a game like this coming from Nick Cox. So well done to those that stuck fat with him. Jordan Butts, as I said, I am an owner. He's a real rookie pod and couldn't be happier at the moment. I paid up not necessarily for his scoring potential, but his job security. So now I think he does have a bit more scoring potential than what I first predicted, which is a real bonus for me. Harry Sharp, I was always concerned about this bloke, so I don't think he comes into the team anytime soon. And again, that's why I paid up for Butts over a Sharp, because I just didn't rate Harry Sharp's job security. Lockie Young, he's got a positive break-even there of 14, projected score of 62. So again, looking to go up 20k. You don't look to bring him into your side, but if you started with him, it's been okayish, I suppose. And Cozzy, yeah, I've got the poo symbol on him there because the amount of fumbles, missed chances on the weekend. I said in my review video that I think probably Timmy O'Brien comes into the side. I'm not too sure if Clarko's going to keep the faith with him, but just did not look good at all, Cozzy, on the weekend. And he's going to be a very, very slow burn. Don't trade him out, I think. Don't panic. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait a fair while for him to make any decent coin, I think. Onto the midfielders, 500k plus. A couple of surprising names, in my opinion, up the top here. Now, I feel for Mitch, big old crumb. If you haven't subscribed to him, make sure you go and do that. He does his weekly SuperCoach review videos. A really, really funny bloke, awesome guy. So shout out to you, mate. But Guthrie was his pod pre-season, but just didn't go with him in the end. So really disappointed for him. But look, an average of 130, he's looking really, really good, isn't he? And look, I must admit, I completely underrated him as a SuperCoach selection going into the season because I just thought that he wouldn't be, I suppose, up there with the elites. You know, he's probably that next ring down. But if he continues his current form with that average around 130, which I don't think that he can do, but yeah, he'll look to be one of the highest averaging midfielders to end the season. Now, it's up to you if you want to take the gamble on him. I've got the pod/buy now, their symbol on him. If you want a pod, you can buy him now. But I'm not recommending him either way. It's a really tough one. It's really personal preference with Guthrie. But yeah, I certainly don't think that he can maintain that average. But there's no reason why he can't maintain a healthy average and an average, I suppose, high enough to finish in the top 10. Rory Sloane, I don't know if this is a trap. I've got the trap but question marks. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Rory Sloane is a trap, but I don't know if he is. Is he going to maintain this form? Again, he was a bit irrelevant last year, and his durability is starting to be a little bit of concern. He is getting older, but Adelaide are playing some really good footy at the moment, in my opinion anyway. He could be an okay selection, but do you bring him in at 507? Do you think he's going to finish in the top 10 midfielders? I just don't think so personally, but yeah, I'm not sure if he's a trap. That's probably a little bit harsh, but I wouldn't be looking to do it myself anyway. Sammy Walsh, I love this bloke as a pick. Wish I had have selected him, really backed my gut pre-season, but he's a buy now, I think. I think he's a pretty safe buy-in. Average of 117, break even of 98. So, you know, he won't lose or make too much money in the short term, but I just think he's going to be a really safe selection. He's a main man there at Carlton these days, and he'll be the highest averaging midfielder there. I'm really confident on that. So here's a buy it now for me. I think Sam Walsh can certainly finish in the top 10 midfielders for averages, and I think he is the real deal. Jared Lyons, again, I wasn't too big on this guy pre-season. I'm obviously a keen Lyons supporter, and I thought that he'd be spending a little bit more time in the forward line, given the fact that Cam Rayner was meant to be spending extra time there in the midfield, and they were really trying to blood him as a midfielder this year, more of a midfielder than a forward, or at least a, pretty even split, I think, there. But given the fact that he's out now, Lachie Neale's been down on form, possibly injured, I'll speak about him a little bit later, then Lyons really does come into calculation, because we've seen what happened over the weekend, that many of our premium elite midfielders got tagged, and I just don't think that Lyons will ever get tagged. There's always other blokes that'll be running through there, your Neils, your Zorkos, even a McCluggage if it goes through. I think they get tagged before Lyons does, because he's that really strong, big-bodied midfielder. It is pretty hard to tag him anyway, but I think he could be a really, really nice pod selection. Now, it's looking that he'll lose a little bit of cash this week, but yeah, I'm keeping a really, really close eye on Jared Lyons, and I think he could be a good selection to end the year. Patrick Cripps, he really surprised me over the weekend, so respect for you, Cripper. I absolutely wrote this bloke off, and I did have the trap symbol on him last week, but I've got the binoculars there. Basically, watch out for him, because he could still be a trap. Look, don't lose complete faith in him. I must admit that I did last week, mainly because of the injury news. So I thought to myself, well, he's getting jabbed just to get up and play each week, then surely he can't maintain even his last year average of 97 anymore. But he hit back over the weekend, but it was a massive game from him. It was a couple of goals, 30-plus possessions, and still wasn't that monster score. So I suppose that is a little bit concerning. It may be one of the best games that he has during the year, and it still wasn't an absolute monster. So yeah, I'm still not keen on Paddy Cripps whatsoever, but if you're an owner, then last week was positive signs for you anyway, I think. Andrew Gaff, again, I think he could still be a trap. I did mention last week that there's no way that you look to get someone like a Gaff into your side unless you see some consistent form for at least 3+ weeks. So, he had a decent sort of a game over the weekend, but looking to lose a little bit of cash in the short term. Just keep a watch on for him, but I think he could be a little bit of a trap. His floor is just too low for mine anyway. Jack Steele, Well, I've got the binoculars there. Buy now. I'm not saying that you have to buy him now, but he's pretty much right at any stage, I think, to get into your side. He's got an average air of 115. I said last week that he's been a little bit underwhelming, but he was ultra impressive over the weekend. As I mentioned, Spills was there and watched a bit of his work and just said that he was ultra impressed. So I think he's going to be a really good selection, pretty much a lock for top 8 averaging midfielders by the end of the season. So whenever the time's right, you can bring someone like a Jack Steele in. Hopefully for non-owners, he can have a couple of quieter games at some stage during the season, ideally when it's upgrade time, and look to get him in there. But personally for me, I'm looking to maybe get him in after round 14 if I need another premium midfielder. May have to go earlier though. We'll just have to wait and see. Andy Brayshaw, he got tagged a bit over the weekend and really disappointing, wasn't it? I did recommend to bring this bloke into your side, so apologies for that. That is one that I did get a little bit wrong, but I don't think that we'll see too many of those games from Brayshaw again. It was a really, really just out of character, I suppose, game from Brayshaw, but I'm sure that he'll hit back. Was it the fact that Daddy Fife wasn't there with the young brigade? I'm not too sure, but for me, Andy Brayshaw, I still think that he's going to be a solid pick. If you did bring him in last week, you would have been really, really disappointed with that score, but just keep the faith. If you didn't bring him in last week, obviously don't get him in at this stage because he probably will leak a little bit of cash after those 2 good scores are out of your system. But someone to watch for the season. I think he could still be a really, really great selection and not losing the faith at all with Brayshaw. The Bond, again, he's one of those blokes that you just wait for a couple of really bad games or low games and then get him in there. Adams, just durability, always going to be a concern. Wouldn't look to go near him. And Jack McRae, well, he's a little bit the same as Jack Steele. You sort of just get him in whenever because he'll be one of the top averaging midfielders for the season. But frustrating for non-owners because didn't he junk it up in that 4th quarter? I looked at the scores at 3/4 time and thought, you little ripper. It's great for me anyway, as a non-McRae owner, to see him have a quiet game because I really, really rate him as a selection, but managed to get, 40-odd plus points in the last quarter, and that's just what Jack McRae can do. You just can't keep the great man down, so whenever the time's right, I think he'll always be a really good selection, Jack McRae. Trav Boak, I wouldn't worry too much about that break even. If you're looking to get a pod in your midfield, then I still think he's going to be a really good selection. Just keep him on your watch list. I underrated him at the start of the season. Andy McGrath, I think that he may be a bit of a trap, but the reason why I haven't put a complete trap on him is the fact that Essendon's midfield is a little bit decimated at the moment, and he does have the opportunity to step up. Now, does he take the opportunity? That's up to Andy McGrath. If you think that he will, then yeah, maybe he's not a trap, but yeah, from what I've seen, he's just not a player that you look to bring in. Yeah, I wouldn't go there personally. Zachy Merritt, he hit back with a little bit of form with a 115 over the weekend, but break even of 144. Again, a really underwhelming start to the season. I wanted more from him, but I'm not overly concerned. Lose a little bit of cash if he goes at a 126. Josh Kelly, now this is a little bit of a concern for me, mainly because he's coached by Leon Cameron. He's been playing out of position, more of a forward role at stages during the game, and yeah, it's really not looking good for owners at this stage. This man can bounce back, don't get me wrong. So he's a wonderful player, an elite type player. We've seen what his averages have been during the past few seasons, but I mentioned this last week. The main issue with Josh Kelly at the moment in your side is the fact that you've started him knowing that there's a high risk of injury at some stage during the season, and you're banking on that average to outweigh that risk. Now at the moment, with an average of 96 along with that risk, yeah, not looking like a great selection at all at this stage. So look, do you jump ship? I wouldn't be. You've probably got bigger problems, but I would be very concerned as an owner at this stage. Titch, now, I've got the tag symbol there. He got tagged over the weekend. I talked about it before, Mark O'Connor, so kept him to a high 80s score, but if you're getting a hard tag like that and still manage to almost go a 90, then it's not the end of the world, and he won't get tagged every week. Some teams will just let him go around and do what he wants because at times he's not overly damaging. So I still think he's a really good selection. He'll be in the top 8 midfielders, in my opinion anyway, by season's end. But in the short term, probably lose a little bit of money. But again, he's a type of player that can go a 153. So Tom Mitchell, I'm still a pretty happy owner at this stage. 5, hopefully he'll be back this week for current owners. Clary Oliver, Jez, I got the tag symbol on him. De Boer did an absolute number on him in the first half. Was only on 10 points, so I did make a little prayer to the Supercoach gods asking for them to take De Boer out of the game. They kindly did that for me. Not that I wish injury on any player. I did mention that in my review, but they did me a favour and other Oliver owners a favour because he had a decent second half, but still really disappointing. He's looking to lose some money there, but I'm keeping the faith. Hopefully that's not a pattern and he doesn't get tagged every week. Christian Petrarca, yeah, really disappointing starting selection. A break-even of 170, hasn't even been tagged. Disposal efficiency's been right down. We're a little bit worried about how it would adapt to the 2021 season. He got scaled pretty highly last year. Yeah, back to 20-minute quarters. Is that a challenge for him? Yeah, there's a few things that are going a little bit against Petrarca at the moment, but you've probably got to keep the faith. He's already lost a little bit of cash. Yeah, probably just stick with him at this stage. And Lachie Neale, I hope that you took my advice last week and traded this bloke out, because if not, you're in a really awkward situation. I ended up bringing Jordan Ridley into my side in place of Lachie Neale, made some cash, and it was such a great decision in the end. But there's been talk that he's really sore at the moment, having some back complaints. That's a little bit dodgy for me. So, as I said at the start, a really awkward position that you find yourself in now. You may just have to cut your losses, to be honest, and get one of these other premium midfielders in. Or, I know it's going to kill you because you could have done it last week, but even someone like a Jordan Ridley, I just can't see Neale bouncing back to his best anytime soon. Look, once he gets his body right, this guy is an absolute gun. We know that. We can get him into our side later, but I'm almost guaranteed to make 150k easily in the short term, and that's what I value a trade at. I mentioned that last week. So at this stage, I'm wrapped that I don't have Neale. If you do have him, you can stick fat with him and just hope that he gets back to his best, but you have to expect that sooner rather than later, because he's already going to lose 49k this week if he hits 100, and that 100 would be his best score of the year. So I'd be very concerned as a Lachie Neale owner, and I still think that the best thing to do is to jump off ship. I know it's really, really tough because you've already lost a lot of cash on him, but if you want my advice, that's probably what I'd do. And on to the midfielders, 200, 500k. I want to say straight out that I'm not a fan of basically any of these guys at this price point in regards to bringing them into your side. Anyway, if you started with some of them, then it's worked out okay. With others, it hasn't worked out well whatsoever. But you've got Drew there as a bit of a pod. Selwood, I think he could be a little bit of a trap. You look at that 110 average, you hear the Joel Selwood name, but I think he's certainly past his best, and I don't think that he can maintain it. Ollie Florin, exciting player from Sydney. There's lots of exciting players from Sydney, though. Amira, worried about his durability. Taranto, he bounced back for current owners, which was nice. Tom Green, I'd actually hold at this stage just because there's a few injuries at GWS at the moment, and I think that he'll get more of an opportunity in the coming weeks anyway. Will Brodie, you've got to sell him if you started with him. He's been an absolute trap. Get rid of him. Sarong, I think he's been a little bit of a trap at his price point. Darcy Parish, I want you to keep him on the watch list because we know that there are some injuries down there at Essendon, and he had his best game of his career on the weekend. So he's looking to step up. We know he was an early draft pick. A few knocks on his game, mainly in regards to his disposal, I think, and certainly his consistency. But if he can put everything together, Darcy Parish, and improve that consistency, then he could be a little bit of a sneaky option, but I wouldn't be looking to do it personally. Simpkin, I think he's been a trap at his price, as is LDU. Yeah, I just can't see them in a North Melbourne side scoring overly well during the year. Chera, keep the binoculars on. Just keep him on your watch list. I think he's going to be a really, really great player, but is he going to be relevant this year in our midfields at 490? I don't know if he can push that uber elite. And Bailey Smith as well. He had a really nice first round, but I don't know if he's going to average too well. I don't think he's going to be really a realistic option in our midfield. I know a few people did get a little bit excited at the start of that, at the end of round one, but me personally, I just would not look at someone like bringing Bailey Smith into my side. And the midfielders under 250k, our man Errol, 241,100, big spike in price, still got a big average here of a 116, negative break even of 69, a projected score of 116. I'm still not sure that he can go near that, but look, what a great first couple of weeks. We still can't complain either with a score of around 75. and he's looking to go up 81,000 if he can get that projected score. I think it's probably safe to say that he'll be going up around probably the 65k mark at this stage, but that's terrific. He is still the best buy. Look, there's no chance you missed out on him, is there? But for the couple of people maybe that missed out on him, still bring him into your side. It's well worth it, I think. Joro, here's a real pod, looking to go up 45,700 if you can hit his projected score of 53. I've got a feeling he may have been the medical sub in the first round. I'm not sure if he came on early or not, but he's looking okay at the moment. Average of 59, price of 170. Here's a real pod to bring into your side, but yeah, I'd probably be going with a couple of the other options just down below him. Lockie McNeil, looking to go up 33k this week. Don't look to bring him into your side though. Berry and Jordan, I think you can bring both of these blokes into your side if you've missed them still. Berry looking to go up 39k, Jordan 41. Look, you've missed the boat a little bit here, obviously, but there's still a chance to bring them in, I think. I've got the buy now on them, but you should have really brought them in last week if you had the chance. But yeah, you can still get them in, I think, at this stage. Lazaro, worried about his job security, wouldn't be looking to bring him in. Powell, I think at probably 191,800 at the moment. The ship has sailed on him. Different to Jordan and Berry because remember their starting price was a lot lower. So when I say a lot lower, sort of that 20 to 30k range. But yeah, with Powell, 31k if he hits a 59. I suppose you could still bring him in. But for me, the ship has probably sailed on that. And lots of teams have him anyway. Bruin, really worried about Bruin, I think you'd pronounce his name. Really, really disappointing rookie pick. You know, you paid 157,000, hoping for that job security. Maybe not great scoring potential, but job security was looking pretty good, particularly after he scored, was it 4 goals in that pre-season match. But all of a sudden, he found himself omitted, has only played the 2 games. So if he hits a projected score of 40, which I think's probably around his range this year, he'll go up around 12k, but you probably look to just get rid of him when the next good rookie on the bubble comes along, I think. And yeah, that's been an unfortunate starting selection for those that did go with him at the start of the season. And Dom Tyson there to finish off the midfield. Price of 243,900. Talk about disappointing. This bloke has been the ultimate disappointment, I think, this year for owners. An average of only 35, break even of 73. Got dropped last week, which was good in a way because he was most likely going to lose cash, so he hasn't lost cash yet. But I just think you get rid of this bloke ASAP. There's still some blokes in other areas of the ground in particular around this price point that I think you can bring into your side. So I'd be using some DPP to just get him out and bring another bloke in. On to the big boys in the rucks now. Just quickly, what I find interesting about the ruck strategy this year is that those people like myself that started with the set and forget, Gawn and Grundy, would be really, really happy at this stage. But I also think that people that started with one of these big boys and had Flynn on field would also be really, really happy. It really does depend on how you use that extra cash in your team. But yeah, at this stage, I think that both strategies have looked okay. I'm certainly happy that I went with the set and forget and wouldn't change that. But Matty Flynn, as you can see there, with an average of 102, actually scored really well against Max Gawn. So I did mention in my review video that with Matt Flynn, if he can score close to a 90, or I think it was just above a 90, wasn't it, against the best ruckman in the competition, then he should be able to score pretty well against some of those mediocre ruckmen. So Matt Flynn, I've got as a buy now still, if you don't have him for any reason, but I've also got that the ship is very much starting to sail. So I think there's still enough coin in him to buy him this week if you have missed out for any reason. But this is certainly the last week to buy Matt Flynn. Now, Lloyd Meek, it's interesting that he's got the lower break even, but I've actually got that I think that the ship has sailed. Now, I don't think that you look to bring in Meek personally. You know, a negative break even of 47 looks really good. That projected score of 65, but yeah, how does he go with Sean Darcy in the side, which I've also got there in the list? And again, someone Darcy I'm not really interested in, although he's looking to make some cash there, about 20k if you can go 110, which again, I'm not really sure on. But with Meek at 177k, if you started him for some reason and you had, Flynn as your R2, Meek as your R3, then you're really happy with that because he's going up another 50k this week if he goes 65, but you probably wouldn't look to bring him in. Paul Hunter, job security, big concern. I don't think he comes back into the side, so is he a bit of a dead rookie? Yeah, he may be. You may just need to use him as a bit of a loophole. Tom Hickey, now, if you had have traded this bloke out for Sam Draper last week, then you made a pretty good decision, I think, because he's got an average of 98, break-even of only 4, projected score of 86, could be a little bit higher, who knows, but looking to be going up 36k if he hits that score. So I do know a couple of blokes, that did end up keeping Draper. They end up getting, Flynn's score on field. So there are a few people that are still in the boat where they are holding Sam Draper. So look, for me, is it too late to jump on a Hickey now? You are making 40 odd K. Yeah, really your only options if you are a Sam Draper owner is to go down to someone like a Meek or a Flynn, although you're loath to do that because you have missed those big price rises already. Or else you probably go to, if you've got the cash, you may need to make 2 trades. Go to Brodie Grundy, I think, 642,400. If you don't have him, an average of 122, projected score of 124, and a break-even in the green, 80. So he's looking to go up 20k. So we know what he's done the last couple of weeks. He was a great vice captaincy option for round 2 and round 3 after a disappointing round 1. But the set and forget owners, we selected this guy for a reason. I think that he is an absolute buy now. If you don't have him, if you're not desperate to change your setup, then you don't have to get him in, obviously. But if you're a Draper owner, he's certainly a bloke that you always look to buy now. To be quite honest, I'm going to have the buy now on Brodie Grundy and Max Gawn every day of the week because I think they're the 2 blokes that you want to end up with. There's no one else on this list, I think, that will even come close to them. And you look at the averages there, a 131, a 122, far and away the best average for a ruckman. You got Nick Nat next there in the list on a 103. There might be a couple of blokes maybe that I've missed that had a higher average. I'm not too sure. I don't think that I have, but they're far and away the best ruckman, and there shouldn't be any team in the competition that do not want to end with these 2 blokes in your side. So they're the 2 buy nows. The other blokes I'm not even going to really talk about. Is there anyone of note there? Look, I really don't think so. Just check the symbols there if you want any more info on the rucks, I think. And on to the forwards, 500k plus. Thanks for sticking with me. The man up the top there, all I'm going to say is that he is an absolute must-have. Josh Dunkley, he's looking to go up another 20k this week if he goes around a 123. No reason to suggest that he won't do that with an average higher than that anyway with a 126. An absolute must-have if you don't have this bloke. Get him in as soon as possible. Tommy Hawkins, again, just keep the binoculars on him. I'm not a fan of key forwards. I won't be looking to get him in really at any stage of the season. Dusty, I brought him in last week, and I still think that he's just one of those picks that's safe as houses. He was a little bit disappointing, but remember, he did cop a tag from Hewitt. I don't think that'll happen every week. He will get a little bit of freedom, or more freedom anyway, from time to time, and I'm looking for him and the whole Richmond team to really bounce back this week. Dusty tends to get up for those really big and crucial games, and I'm looking for a big response from him. So I brought him in last week for Tommy Phillips. Still not disappointed with that decision, but if only he had gone someone like Mr. Tex Walker, who we will talk about very shortly. And Dane Zorko, I've actually taken the trap off him. I think that was a little bit harsh. I love the man, don't get me wrong. As an opposition supporter, you may think, he's a little bit arrogant and all the rest. And yeah, I agree, he can certainly come off looking like that at times. But I think that given the fact he's been playing a little bit more through the midfield than what I expected anyway, that he does have the chance to improve my predicted average, which was around the 90 mark. I think he's got a current average of 98, but durability I think is going to always be a little bit of concern given the fact he is managing that calf issue and that Achilles issue, I think, for the rest of his career. And I'm just still not a big fan of this pick. Looking to go down 11k if he hits his projected score of 100, but yeah, I'm still not a big fan of Zorko, but I think it was probably a little bit harsh having the trap symbol on him last week. And on to the forwards, 200 to 500k. This is where a lot of the current discussion is at, and it's actually a really relevant price point. Unlike the 200 to 500k range in your midfield, I think the forward line is different this year, and there are a lot of really tempting options that we see in front of us. So we'll start off with Ridley and Impey, a really good starting pick for my side, 288,000 with an average of 98, a negative break even of 62, looking to go up another 54k this week. Now, I actually have the buy now symbol on him. You have missed that price rise from last week, but in saying that, I think that there is a good chance. Oh, look, I won't go as far as saying a good chance, but a decent chance that this bloke could even end up as our F6. Now, in the short term, he's still going to make you some really good money, so I don't see him going under 400k at least. So you've still got at least 112 there. I'm hoping even for a 450. If that's the case, then you can always look to upgrade him, and I think it would be worth trading him in due to the fact that you'll be getting a really nice price rise there. Again, these are just my predictions, but I really love what I saw from Impey. I did mention him in my review and went into a little bit of detail there, but just really loved his game. So I still think he's a buy now, although he has gone up and the ship is sailing very quickly. You'll have to jump on him this week. You won't be able to wait until next week. Josh Bruce, well, I've got the trap there. Should it be a trap, question mark? I just don't know with key forwards this year. Look, I could be completely wrong on key forwards this year because some of these blokes are absolutely smashing it out of the park. You got Walker there and McKay, who I'll speak about in a little bit. But Bruce, I don't overly rate him as a player. He's had a couple of big games in the past, nowhere near like a 10-goal haul, but I just think that could have been a little bit of a flash in the pan. Short term, looking to make 60k, but yeah, you have to pay 342 for him, and I could see him, hovering around that 380 mark for the rest of the year. Not the rest of the year, but I think that's how he'll probably average out, to be quite honest. Again, could be wrong, but I think he's a little bit of a trap. Now, this is where a lot of the discussion is at, particularly from last week. Tex Walker, no one saw this coming. 140 for an average. That is just phenomenal, isn't it? So, a negative break even of 35, a projected score of 105, looking to go up another 61k. So, we know that he went up a lot last week, now above 400k. What do you do with this bloke? Now, it's extremely frustrating if you did miss out on him last week. The ideal scenario for me would have been last week to go Neil to Ridley, as I did, and then Paddy Dow up to Tex Walker. The thought did enter my mind, but yeah, I was pretty keen on getting Dusty in and going with the majority of the crowd there. Either way, I was getting rid of Tommy Phillips in the end because I just, thought he's a butcher. And with Dow, I thought, look, I'm going to give him one more week just to see. But unfortunately, that didn't work out, as we know. But yeah, Tex Walker, you can buy now, but the ship, has it already sailed? If not, it's sailing away at a rapid rate. If you decide that Tex Walker could be a possible keeper for your side, then this is the last week to get him in. The way he's going at the moment, there's no reason to suggest, that he won't be, but do you trust him? A bloke that has not been relevant for a few years now. He's playing the best footy of his life at the moment. Maybe not of his life. Had a really good year when they made the grand final, but I don't think he can maintain an average of 140. Certainly not. He can't, can he? I don't think that he can anyway. If he can, then, geez, jump on now and just enjoy the ride. But if you think he'll average, around the 100 mark, you're not going to make a heap of cash off him long term. But look, you could still do a little bit of a quick flip. He's going to make some really healthy cash, even in the next couple of weeks at least. So, am I for, am I against? I'm really on the fence, probably leaning a little bit more towards against, I suppose, because you've missed out already. But in saying that, I don't think that the ship has sailed. You can probably still jump on him. Now, Fogarty, what a surprise, averaging 110. I didn't rate this pick whatsoever pre-season, I must admit, and just one of those names I just scrolled down. I thought Carlton have got some great ins, like your Williams, your Sards. Walsh was really looking to step up into the side, and I just couldn't see Fogarty really having an impact. Did I say Fogarty or Fogarty? I don't know how to pronounce his name, to be quite honest, but 110 average is really, really impressive from him. He's looking to go up 55k, so if you think he can maintain the rage, then he could be a really decent selection in your forward line. I just don't know enough about him, and without knowing anything about him, I'd just be really surprised if he can average 110 for the rest of the season, even 105, 100 even. I'm just really not too sure. So if you know a little bit more about him, then go for it. But personally, I can't really give a really valid opinion, I suppose, on him. Now, Zeeble, similar to Tex Walker in a way, you could buy now, but has the ship already sailed? So way more teams have Jack Zeeble than Tex Walker. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different situation. But if you don't have him, yeah, similar to the Walker situation, you are, paying 60k less for Zeeble. I think that the ship is certainly starting to sail. Again, this is the last week that you can get him, but you can still buy him now at the moment. 50k, he's going up. Yeah, he's proven that, again, similar to an Impey, he could end up as our F6 this year and be a keeper. I just really like his role there. Not a great defender, to be quite honest, and maybe a little bit frustrating for North supporters, but as SuperCoach owners, as I mentioned again in my review video, yeah, it's wonderful for us and a really, really good pick in 2021. Cozzy Pickett, another guy that's really surprised me, already made some healthy coin to start off the season, an average of 91. I didn't see that. But what a surprise packet, so electric, so exciting. I know a lot of Melbourne supporters were a little bit wary about selecting him with that early pick, but he's repaying the faith at the moment and looks like he'll be a cult figure. We know that, and just super exciting if you're a Melbourne supporter. As a SuperCoach selection, yeah, you're taking a big risk here. He's an ultra pod. If you think he can keep it up, great. He's been playing a little bit of midfield time, attending a few CBAs, but he'll be most damaging down forward, I think, with stints in the midfield. So it could be an okay selection, but I just don't think that he'll be a keeper like a Zeeble or an Impey has the potential to be. Mackay now, I've got the trap symbol on him with a question mark. Again, he's a young key forward, but is this his breakout season where he becomes one of the best key forwards in the competition? Yeah, it could be his season, and it could be a season for key forwards. Again, I won't go into it how I feel about key forwards in SuperCoach, but negative break-even of 23. To be honest, I think he played the absolute game of his life. Will he play another game like that and dominate like that for the rest of the season? I can't really say, but I'm always iffy on this pick, and I wouldn't recommend to bring him in, but I can see why you might want to have a stab on him. Joey Danaher, well, he's been an okay starting selection, a break-even of -1. I think that he'll improve as the season goes, so I think he can still get to that sort of 350k mark at least, Danaher, and repay the faith of owners that started with him. If he can get a 64, which again I think could be, well, maybe not modest against the Dogs. Maybe that's a pretty accurate projected score, but 28k if he hits that, that's still okay. Durability is always going to be a concern. You don't look to get him in at this stage. Do you trade him out? I wouldn't be trading Danaher out. I'd keep the faith with him for a little bit longer. Certainly some more cash to be made. Sam Wicks, an ultra pod here, so an average of 91, projected score of 78, but yeah, you'd more likely go with an Impey or a Zeeble at this stage, because you're paying 354k for him already. But had to give him a bit of a shout out there as a pod. He's looking to go up 30k if he can hit his projected score of 78, and he's looking really exciting, Wicks, at the moment. It looks like on the weekend that the opposition just didn't pay enough respect to him, and he had a few marks inside 50, hit the scoreboard, and a pretty damaging type player. And Tommy Atkins, shout out to George, as I mentioned last week, his pod to start the season. You may be a little bit disappointed if you brought him in last week. I know a fair few teams did. When I say a fair few blokes that watch this channel anyway, I know. And I suppose the reason why you'd be disappointed is because you didn't go Tex Walker. It was most likely a choice out of the two. But look, don't be too disappointed at this stage. The average is nothing like Walker's, but remember, you're only basing your own average on the one game that you brought him in for, and I still think he's a pretty solid selection. He's gone up a little bit in price already, looking to go up 20k if he can hit his projected score of 59, and that's a very modest projected score in my opinion for Tom Atkins. I think he can go at least an 80, so he'll be making more, in my opinion anyway, than 20k. Still a good selection, Tommy Atkins, and if you did select him last week, as I said, don't be too worried. Still a pretty solid selection, I think. And Toby Green, well, I wouldn't be selecting him because the NDHP policy. If you've watched my channel for the last year, then you know exactly what that is. Negative break even though, but he played really, really well on the weekend and didn't get an overly massive score. So will he have many more games like that? I'm not too sure, but I just wouldn't be looking to go near this bloke. Bailey, the hero from the weekend. Look, keep him on your watch list, but yeah, don't look to bring him in at this stage. Butters, extremely disappointing score after having the buy now symbol on him last week. Look, I still think that he can be one of the top averaging forwards for this season, but at this stage, you don't look to bring him in, even though he's got that really low break even of 69. Remember, that big score will be out of his system in a week or two, and that low score of a 50-odd will be in his rolling average for the next few weeks. So don't look to get him in now. Just do what I was always planning to do with Zach Butters and just keep a watch on him for the next few weeks and just see how he does. That's the smart move if you don't have Zach Butters at the moment. Stevenson, I've always thought that he's a trap. Still got the same opinion. Heaney, well, he's done a lot better than what I thought, averaging 100. I thought that would be closer to the 90 mark. But yeah, he's looked pretty good for those owners that did start with him. You'd be pretty happy with that at this stage, Heaney. DeGoey, again, trap and DHP policy. Wouldn't look to start him. Phillips, he's an absolute butcher. Was really glad to get him out of my side. I just took the bait this year and not a good starting selection, Tom Phillips. And Shy Bolton, again, he's been a trap. I don't know a lot of sides that have him, but if you do have him, maybe look to just cash out on him. Probably the same as Phillips. I'd still get rid of Phillips, even if you don't have an... Yeah, I keep on going Impey Zeeble, one of these types that are scoring really well at the moment, I think. But yeah, DeGoey, Phillips and Bolton, all traps for mine. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 250k. This man at the top, I have great love for. Chatty Warner, talked a lot about him in my round review, but love everything about what this bloke brings to the table. Attends some CBAs, hits a scoreboard, wasn't that an awesome goal that he kicked over the weekend. So I still think he's a buy now if you've missed him, even at this price. Now, it does hurt, as I mentioned, with a few players that have already gone up in price, but I think that he can push at least 400. When I say at least 400, maybe not at least, I definitely think that he can push 400 though, and he's still making 170k on his current price. So it does hurt, but he's looking to go up 62,000 just this week if he can hit a projected score of 69. He's got an average of 92, so no reason to suggest that he couldn't go above that and make even more money than that 62k projected rise there. Definitely a buy now if you don't have him, in my opinion. Brockman, got the yin-yang symbol on him. Poor first round, pretty decent second round, and then again a poor third round. Does he keep his spot? I'm not too sure, but he'll be up and down, a bit of a slow burn, I think. Frederick, he's a bit of a pod rookie from Freo, 175,700, 62, okay for an average from a rookie with a negative break-even of 21 there. He's looking to go up about 27k. Miles Bergman, now, job security is going to be an issue with this bloke. Do you jump off him? Look, if he doesn't play the next couple of weeks or is that medical emergency sub, then maybe move on to someone like a Waterman, who, again, remember, I don't have in this video because he's only played the one game. Head over to Spiller's SuperCoach to check his rookie review video out, where you'll find a little bit more info on him. Make sure you subscribe to Spills as well. Awesome bloke. Make sure you support the channel. Now, Brayden Campbell, 230,000, average of 68. Wow, yin-yang for him as well. Was it 116, 118? I can't remember over the weekend, all the way down to a 20 score. So he's still got a negative break-even of 12. I'm certainly not expecting those low scores from him each week. Again, I'm not expecting the high scores, those 100-plus scores necessarily from Campbell, but you'd hope that he could go around a 70 to a 75, and that's enough for us, I think, and he's still got a fair bit of money to make there, I think. 35k if he goes 68, which I think is achievable this week. Anthony Scott, well, he bounced back with a nice 65. I didn't have him on field, unfortunately, but he's looking to make 23k this week. Don't look to buy him, but he's looking okay for his job security in the short term, I think, Scott. Logan McDonald, I think the ship's probably already sailed on him because you're paying 245,000, looking to go up 23k, but a little bit too late for him. Jonesy Yin Yang, he really hit form over the weekend. A break-even of 16, projected score of 39. Still lowly average of 39, but maybe it wasn't as bad as I said last week. But don't look to invest in Jones, I don't think. Evans, I'm pretty sure, was injured over the weekend, so don't look to bring him in. Rowe, again, a yin-yang. Well, maybe not a yin-yang. You know, he had a really good first round, a poor second, and a pretty poor third round as well. I'm lucky that I don't have to play him on field. Will he bounce back with a big score? Look, he's playing the Roos and got some nice opposition in the next few weeks, so hopefully he can for us current owners. But yeah, unless he hits back with a pretty decent score, then he might be a slower burn than what we first anticipated, unfortunately. Nettie Cow, you got to sell. He's been an absolute dud rookie. And Paddy Dow, you know, my love for Chad Warner, it's the opposite for Paddy Dow. And I won't go into this bloke because I did talk a little bit about him in my round review video. Feel free to go back and check that out if you haven't already watched him, but extremely disappointed with this selection. I got sucked in a major way. He's on the chopping block for me, not this week, because I don't think that there's any great options on the bubble. I think that I'll look to go possibly Wardman next week if he has another solid round and his job security is looking okay. Just want another week's data before I make the move. And look, even if he scores a 53, which I think he can do, he'll go up 3,900. So he's not going to go down a heap. Even if he gets another score such as a 29, he's not going to lose a heap of cash. So I'd much rather wait the week, take the risk of losing a little bit of money and play it safe before selecting a rookie that's only played the one game. And Liam Henry, he's got the poo symbol there, average of 29. We paid a little bit more for him at the start of the season, a real pod sort of a rookie anyway, but I don't think too many teams have him, but he's actually looking to lose money this week, which is extremely disappointing from one of your forward rookies. So that's it from me for this week, guys. Thank you very much for sticking with me all the way. Look, they are pretty long, these videos, but there is a lot to talk about, and I'd much rather try to give as much information as I can rather than skimping through all these players. So I hope you enjoyed. Take care as always. Good luck with all of your crucial decisions going into this week. Personally, I'm holding off with the trading, hopefully at this stage anyway, but next week I may look to make maybe one sneaky one. So take care, guys. All the best, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers. Bye.